Alright lads, welcome to another video. This is going to be a sort of new series on the channel because I'm actually going to try and upload every day this month. Obviously throughout December a lot of YouTubers tend to try and upload every day of the month as a sort of advent calendar challenge type thing. But I'm not doing it based on that, it's just the kind of concept of the idea. That's exactly what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and upload every single day of the month, and these are going to be the kind of filler days. Obviously I usually upload on a Monday with Up With Your Choice, Wednesday Punt It Long, Friday Pars Roundup, Saturday the vlog, and Sunday is usually the last word. And obviously the missing days in them are Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on a Tuesday and Thursday I'm going to try and do one of these episodes, which is going to be called My Thoughts On. And it's basically just going to be, as it says in the tin, my thoughts on a certain topic. And this one is going to be the Europa League 2, which has been now agreed by UEFA in a latest meeting that they had. It's been agreed that that's going to come into place from 2021. And basically I'm just going to give my thoughts and opinions on it, let you know kind of what the format of it is going to be and how it's going to change how European football for clubs in Scotland particularly, because that's what I'm obviously more interested in than anything else. In terms of the Europa League, it's obviously the kind of secondary competition. It's kind of the substandard version of the Champions League. People haven't really taken to it as a competition really. It doesn't have any theme tune, so there's nothing to really get to grips with it. It's a good competition for clubs in Scotland as it currently is right now, but with the Europa League 2 now coming into play, you'll have the Champions League, the Europa League, and then you'll have the Europa League 2. And this is how it's going to impact teams in Scotland. As I said, that's what I'm mainly interested in, so this is kind of what's going to go down with that side of it. So an article came out for BBC Sport where Alexander Ceferin, the kind of main guy in UEFA, or at least one of the main guys, has come out and spoke about the agreement that's coming into place where they're adding in this Europa League 2 as a new European competition as of 2021. So that obviously means that we've got another 2.5 seasons of the current format with the Champions League and the Europa League. Obviously we've seen a new international competition come into play this season with the UEFA Nations League, so they are trying to innovate and create new things within football, and you've got to commend them for trying new things. Obviously you ask for just a bit of innovation in football sometimes because it can get quite bland and stale, but this one I'm not entirely sure on. I think the Europa League is a decent enough competition for players and clubs in whole in Scotland and in kind of lesser nations. I know Scotland is quite a big footballing country, but at the end of the day our coefficient isn't high enough for us to be considered as one of the biggest nations in terms of where we rank in terms of getting Champions League places and stuff like that. And this kind of speaks volumes, this Europa League 2, it kind of speaks volumes of how our coefficient ranking and how we are seen in terms of how important we are for European competitions. When the Europa League 2 comes into place, Celtic, the champions of Scotland, will still get the chance to be involved in the season's Champions League. They'll still have to go through qualification rounds like they currently do already, so that won't really change that much. But in terms of our clubs qualifying for the Europa League, currently, obviously, second place and third place going to sort of qualifiers for it. I don't know if fourth place do either. I think it's just second and third that go into qualifying rounds for the current Europa League. But from 2021 onwards, they won't be in place in the Europa League. They will be qualifying for the Europa League 2. So it really does kind of, as I said, speak volumes of how lowly ranked we are as a nation in terms of how important we look on the European stage. And it is quite disappointing because when you look at it, I mean, Celtic have obviously came into the Europa League this season from being in the Champions League, and I'm not sure if that will change. I'm not sure if they'll drop straight into Europa League 2 because of what country they're from. I would imagine that it would still be the same rules that if they got into the group stage of the Champions League and got knocked out and had to play in a lesser competition, they would go straight into the Europa League because that is kind of fair. They haven't done horrendously bad to be knocked down into a level below that. It should still stay the same for that, I think. That's not entirely been verified by the article that I've seen based on this story, but I would imagine that that'll stay the same for whoever the champions of Scotland are in that case. But in terms of the second and third teams who qualify for the current Europa League, they will now be qualifying for the Europa League 2. And as I said, in my opinion, it's very disappointing. It just kind of tarnishes a bit of what any type of European competition is like for teams like Rangers, teams like Hibs, Kilmarnock, Hearts, Aberdeen even. Just teams like that aspire to be involved in these competitions, and whilst they don't entirely look forward to the Europa League itself because everyone would want to be involved in the Champions League, being involved in European football is fantastic. And even though, I mean, Hibs obviously played teams like Mould and another team, I can't exactly remember the name of them, and they're not exactly big teams, but it's a completely different atmosphere compared to playing your domestic league football or whatever. It's completely different to playing a friendly against these teams because the Europa League, there's obviously something behind it, and it's a European adventure for most fans, going to these faraway places to go and see your team play away from home. And the Europa League 2 will just kind of severely drop the quality of what these teams are playing against. So Hibs, obviously they were playing against teams like Mould, and Aberdeen were playing against a team like Burnley. And I imagine that English teams will get a higher ranking, so they won't be involved in Europa League 2. There might be one that gets in with a lower league placing in the current Premier League. They might get into this current Europa League 2. But I would imagine that this Europa League 2 is built for nations like Scotland at the moment, and even lesser nations than it currently is in the Europa League. So I just am kind of over the piece of this kind of subject. I'm really disappointed in how it's going to come about. I'm kind of disappointed that ultimately teams that are as good as Rangers, Hibs, obviously they were very good last season, they've kind of stumbled a bit this season, but in terms of how they play generally, teams that can play as good as teams in Scotland can play on this stage. We've seen that with teams like Rangers and Celtic in the Europa League this season. It's a real damn shame that they're now going to not get the chance to even play in the Europa League. Obviously Celtic might if they get knocked out of the Champions League and then come down to the Europa League like they have this season. But for the teams that finish below first place in Scotland, it is a kind of poor development for them because it means that they're now getting considered as a lesser value of team in comparison to what they are currently getting. It might give them a better chance of winning European competitions, but doesn't make up for the fact that they're going to be playing against completely rubbish teams and playing in a lesser competition that they're not, clearly not valued enough anywhere near as much as they should be anyway. And the only other kind of disappointing aspect about it is, for me anyway, that it's basically going to kill Saturday 3 PM kickoffs for the clubs involved. Of course, at the moment, when a team has a Europa League game, they play on a Thursday night, and that means they're highly unlikely to play on a Saturday at 3 PM. They usually get shoved to a Sunday or even a Monday. But with this coming in, Europa League 2, it will take place on the same night as the Europa League currently, so you'll have Europa League and Europa League 2 on a Thursday night as of 2021, and it will just completely kill the natural kind of original Saturday 3 PM kickoffs. And that's what football's all about. You'll love going on a Saturday to go see your team play, and 3 PM is an ideal time for kickoff, and this is just going to kill any of that. And you hear players say it themselves, the earlier in the weekend that they can play their game, quite a lot of players like a Friday night kickoff for example, the earlier that they can play their game at the weekend the better, because then they can get a weekend with their family or a weekend away or something like that. So it is going to kind of kill the 3 PM kickoffs for me, and I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to football. As I've mentioned before, I like grounds like Somerset Park, I like Brecon, Forfar or Broth, so I'm kind of traditionalist when it comes to that. And a 3 PM kickoff for me, I just love the kind of nature of it. And not that I'm not a fan of any other type of kickoff, I do kind of like the Friday night kickoffs, and I wouldn't mind a Sunday kickoff if we were involved in a cup final or something like that. But in terms of just general football, I love a Saturday 3 PM kickoff. And if I were one of these clubs involved in the current Europa League and then having to go into a lesser competition in Europa League 2 and then also miss out on a 3 PM kickoff because we're less graded than we used to be, obviously we wouldn't even be playing in the Europa League, we'd be playing in a lesser competition, it would get on my nerves a bit. It would be nice to play in Europe, of course it would, but it would just be a bit of frustration for me if I was a fan of any club involved in it. So overall, my thoughts on Europa League 2, I think it's just a bit of a disappointing thing for someone coming from Scotland. But in terms of my thoughts on it, I would be frustrated, as I said, if I was a fan of any of the clubs that are now going to be involved in the lesser version of the current Europa League, which is a lesser version of the Champions League. It's just a weird one for me. I would be very frustrated. And that's it for this video, guys. Cheers for watching. If you did enjoy, please give it a like. Comment down below anything you think about the Europa League 2. Do you think it's a good idea? Or again, would you like me and it would kind of frustrate you if you were a fan of this club and you couldn't get into the Europa League, which is the second to the Champions League, and you had to be involved in an even less regarded competition? And don't forget to subscribe for more of this type of content. As I say, I'm going to be trying uploading every day this month, so here's hoping I can do that, starting with these type of videos. So as I said, if you want to stick around, then hit the subscribe button. As you might have noticed, I'm still wearing the same clothes for yesterday's video. I'm filming this on the same day just so I can definitely get it up, because I do want to kind of try and do this for this month and see how it goes. So aye, until the next video, which will be Punt It Long tomorrow, I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.